500 years ago, in a forgotten valley shadowed by storm-lashed peaks, a man stood at the edge of ruin, not from war nor famine, but from his own mind. His name was Elias Thorne, a once revered scholar whose brilliance had drowned in distraction. The world around him buzzed with voices, preachers in the square, merchants haggling at dawn, the ceaseless clatter of the blacksmith's hammer. Yet none of it mattered. What destroyed him was not the noise outside, but the chaos within. The urge to answer every call, to chase every thought, to prove himself in every argument. While rivals sharpened their purpose, Elias scattered his days like seed on stone. Then came the night the monastery burned. In its ashes, a single manuscript survived. One line etched in charcoal. The wise do not silence the world, they choose which sound to obey. That phrase would become his compass. This is not a tale of grand battles or divine miracles. It is the story of a man who learned that courage is not in speaking loudest, but in listening deeply. That true strength lies not in reacting to every disturbance, but in the quiet act of choosing where to place one's gaze. What he discovered in silence would echo longer than any shout. In the year 1418, amid mist-wound hills of northern England, the village of Varro clung to the earth like a secret. Its people lived by rhythm, plow, sow, reap, but Elias Thorne lived by reaction. Once a tutor at York's cathedral school, he returned after a dispute over doctrine, his reputation frayed. Now he rose to argue at council over boundaries, tithes, even sheep trail. He penned letters no one read, corrected farmers' grammar, and paced his study by tallow light, muttering over half-finished treatises on ethics and governance. His neighbor, Silas Gower, an aging stonemason with knotted hands, watched. "You're digging ditches in the dark, Elias," he said one frost-bitten morning. "No water will flow." Elias dismissed him. To be heard, he believed, a man must never stop speaking. Then came the fire. Lightning speared the storm and gutted the village's chapel, the place where Elias kept his life's work, essays, translations, a moral compendium decades in the making. Flames climbed rafters, vellum curled, ash drifted like winter blossom. At dawn, amid blackened beams, one brittle page endured, edges scorched, bearing a single line: "The wise do not silence the world, they choose which sound to obey." Elias knelt in ash, wind howling. For the first time in years, he said nothing. Wind still howled through the charred chapel as Elias knelt in ash, saying nothing. Night thinned to a bruise of violet. Sparks slept in the ribs of timbers. He did not rise. Silas found him at dawn, still kneeling, the brittle page clutched in trembling hands. The mason said nothing either. He sat beside him on a fallen beam, set down a heel of coarse bread and a small flask of cider, and waited while the valley woke. Their silence was not emptiness, it was shelter. Smoke hung sweet and bitter in the cold, and frost silvered the blackened earth while crows stepped the beams like solemn clerks. Days passed. Elias did not speak, did not write. He walked the hills alone, listening, to the wind worrying the heather, to the brook stitching over stones, to the distant chime of a cowbell drifting from a far pasture. At night an owl called from the larches, and stars burned without comment. In that hush, other sounds emerged. The measured tap of Silas's mallet, the hush of grit as a chisel kissed a block, the breath the old man took before each strike. He began to notice what he had long ignored, the precision of Silas's craft, the way each stone was chosen, placed, and left to settle without haste. One afternoon, he watched the mason carve a single letter into sandstone, slow, deliberate, unwavering. "Why that one?" Elias asked at last. "Because it's the next," Silas replied. "Not the loudest, not the easiest, the next." The words lodged like a keystone. Elias returned to his house, not to rebuild his old scaffolds of argument, but to begin anew. He selected one subject, integrity in public service, and shut the door on everything else. He studied it, wrote on it, refined it, then cut it again, like a mason truing an edge. Invitations to debate went unanswered. Petty quarrels passed him like weather. He let silence do the sorting. Season by season, depth gathered. What he finished was not wide, but sound. Years later, his treatise on moral governance traveled to London, upstairs into oaken halls. Scribes copied it on clean vellum, pressed seals of red wax, and sent it onward. Men pored over its pages. They called it wisdom. Elias knew better. Brilliance had not saved him. Courage had, quiet courage, the stubborn bravery to ignore the noise and choose a single, worthy sound to obey. On the final page he wrote what the fire had taught him. Quiet courage is the soul's truest strength.